What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Creative Rise Podcast. So glad that you are here today. We are going to be talking about how to regain your power on a sales call, how to regain control of a conversation so you can actually direct it to where you want to go. If you are new here, my name is Joey. I'm one of the co-founders of Creative Rise, and I believe in a world where more creatives just like you get to actually build a world in a business where they're just succeeding at doing what they love and they're getting paid well to do it. We are literally so over the top at Creative Rise about helping people learn how to build phenomenal businesses, specifically businesses that cross the six-figure mark. And we believe you really need to focus on business if you are going to do that. If you're going to run a good business, you've got to learn how to actually do it, right? So this podcast is all about business, all about the business of becoming a creative six-figure business owner. So glad you're here. Let's dive on into today's episode. So again, talking about how to regain control in a sales call. Now, why are we talking about this? What is the problem here? Well, the problem is that you've had a sales call. I've had sales calls like this. If you've not had one, you will have them, where you just feel like, for the love of Pete, you cannot get control of the conversation. And here's the problem. When you do not have control of a sales call conversation, the client or the soon-to-be client is dictating where the conversation goes, and they're probably dictating you away of the clear talking points that you need to be covering in order to figure out what their problems are, if your solution's really going to be good for them, how quickly they need your solution, and if they're actually going to buy it. And so 9 times out of 10 in my own career, when I do not control the narrative on a sales call, typically I never get to the point where I actually pitch my services, and I never end up asking them for the sale, which is a problem, right? Because that's the whole point of a sales call, is to figure out their problems, figure out if your solution is good for them, then pitch your solution, and then ask them to work with you. Ask them to do business with you. The only way you can get through that cleanly is if you are in control of the flow of the conversation. So real quick, shout out to Victoria May, Creative Rise Mastermind Round 10 member. She had, she's put a lot of effort into her sales calls in the last couple of weeks as she's gone through the Creative Rise Mastermind, but she had one call that she felt did not go so well. This guy was just controlling the whole conversation. She'd take it back, he'd stomp on her and take it back again, and it felt very uncomfortable for her, which it is so uncomfortable. Every time that I have had that happen to me, it's so awkward. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to lead this person through a conversation, a discovery process, and I just can't get anywhere. It's an awkward thing, and it never, as I said earlier, never leads towards a good sale at the end of the convo. So she was like, guys, I feel like that could have gone way better. I would love to chat with somebody about what maybe went wrong. So I was like, hey, let's do it. And a bunch of other creatives from the Creative Rise Mastermind jumped on in, and we had a quick little bonus call where we talked about how to conduct a sales call from the perspective of regaining power. We talk about sales call strategies a lot in the mastermind, but we had a specific bonus call to talk about how to regain control of a situation when you feel like you've lost it on the call. Now, here's the couple things that I broke down to her. 3 things in general that I broke down that I'd love to share with you today. And inside of these, there's a couple points as well. So in order to regain control on a sales call, so you can actually push the conversation towards a sale, you can get the client stopping from just taking you wherever the conversation is going because they're leading it. You regain control. You're now leading the conversation. In order to lead the conversation towards a sale on a sales call, you need to, number 1, start the call by giving them a plan, okay? If you assert right off the bat the fact that you have a plan for that call, odds are they are going to submit to you and let you lead them in that call. If you, however, get on the call and you're just like, hey, how's it going? They're like, good. Like, how are you going? Good. And then they just start asking you questions. You've immediately lost control of the sales call. And they now think, oh, shoot, am I leading this? Are they leading this? It is not a good feeling for the client to have to assume maybe I'm the one leading this. That's not a good position to have a client in. You want to make sure that they can relax, just drop their shoulders, sit there, and they can be led through the sales conversation. So number 1, you have to give them a plan. Now, here's what a plan can look like. Hey, let's say their name is Max. Hey, Max, before we get started, before we jump on into things, I'm going to introduce myself. I'd love to hear more about you. And then we are first going to start talking about your business. And this is where you then enter in what you're talking about. We're first going to identify what's going on in your business around the topic of blank, social media, your website, photos, content, video, whatever it's going to be, paid advertising. So immediately, I'm already asserting myself and saying the first step of the plan is we're going to get to know each other. Second, we are going to talk about your business and what's going on around the topic of enter in what the conversation is going to be about. And you will know what that is when that time comes. And then you can say third, we are actually going to break it down and talk about what a solution could look like if I've got a really good solution for you. And then fourth, I'm going to share what next steps will look like for you if we are a good fit and my solution's a really good fit for your problem. Does that make sense, Max? And they're going to say, that's great, Joey, thanks. And then I am now in the driver's seat. I can then lead them through that process. So it is so important right off the bat that you give them a plan that they can understand and that they can relax as you lead them through, okay? Super important. You have to do that. Number one, start the call by giving the client a plan for the call. No. Number two, how to regain control on a sales call. Number two, this one's really fun. You have to break the pattern of the call. You have to actually do something. You have to have a physical action that will stop the pattern, the trajectory of where the call is going. So if the client is in full control of the call and you're going, man, I really need to regain control of this sales call if I'm ever going to get it to the point where I feel like I can ask for the sale, you need to stop them in their tracks and you need to regain control so you can then lead them going forward. So what I call these are pattern breakers. So what is the pattern you guys are currently in? Are they just rambling on and on and on? Are they asking you a ton of questions? Whatever that pattern is, you need to stop that pattern and shift it, okay? So here's a couple different ways that I love to break the pattern of the call. Number one, this one's very simple. Let's say that you and I are on a sales call and you're asking me a ton of questions. You have the power of the call. You're in control of the call. I can say, let's use Max as an example again. I can say, hey, Max, so sorry, real quick. Let me just ask you a clarifying question. I really want to make sure before we move on any further, I really understand what you said 30 seconds ago or 2 minutes ago. And boom, I then ask a question. Can you tell me more about how that problem was affecting your revenue last year? Hey, can you tell me more about how that makes you nervous for your wedding day? Hey, can you tell me more about the last time you worked with a social media manager? I'm just giving you a couple examples of pattern-breaking questions, but when you ask and you kindly interrupt, you say, hey, so sorry, Max, to interrupt, but I need some clarification here. Can I ask you this question real quick? Can you tell me this? That is a pattern breaker. If the client is just controlling the sales call and they're going on and on and on and on and on, rambling, and you cannot regain control, you need to ask a pattern-breaking question. Kindly interrupt, and then immediately ask a question, which immediately puts you back in control. You're now in the driver's seat of the call. Hope that makes sense. That one is so important. Now, number two, this is a little bit cheeky, okay? A little bit cheeky, but the second way to interrupt the pattern of a call on a sales call when you do not have control and you need to regain control of a sales call is you've got to have a massive pattern breaker. So you need to do something that is clearly going to shut down the conversation for 2 seconds. So let's say the client has control of the sales call. I cannot get control back. I've tried a couple different things and they just cannot stop going on and on and on. They're leading the conversation in totally different directions. We're going all over the place. It's not a productive call. I could say something like this. Hey, so sorry to interrupt. Let me just grab my pen right here and let me grab my piece of paper right here. I really need to make sure that I understand what you just said. So can you repeat that for me? You literally take 2 seconds, take 5 seconds. Maybe you even say this, hey, sorry, I need to plug in my computer. Can you give me 2 seconds? You reach over, boom, unplug your computer, plug it back in. Hey, so sorry about that. Let me ask you this question. You use something like grabbing a pen to stop the conversation. Hey, let me just plug in my computer. You use something like plugging in your computer to stop the conversation, and then you immediately respond with a question. Puts the power back in your hands. You are now in control of the conversation, guys. You've got to learn how to use pattern breakers. So the first one there in this situation is you can just ask a really good clarifying question. That is the first type of a pattern breaker. The second one, which is a more extreme example, if you need it, is you can reach for something physical. Ask for a quick pause so you can get something physical. Hey, I need to get my charger. I need to get my piece of paper. I need to get a pen. This pen's not working. Can you give me a second to grab a different pen so I make sure I don't miss what you're saying as I'm taking notes, okay? Those are crucial to break the patterns on a sales call so you can regain position of control and you can actually lead the conversation towards a sale. That one's cheeky, but it really, really works. I've had to use it so many times, okay? Now, number three, the last way to regain control of a sales call when you feel like you've lost it is to make sure that if the call is winding down to a close, you unapologetically ask for what you need, okay? This is one that I really, really made sure that Victoria took in because she felt like she got off a call without getting everything she needs. And when you exit a sales call and you didn't get all the questions asked that you knew you needed to get, it is a horrible feeling because you don't feel like you know how to follow up with them because you don't have the context you needed. You don't know what problems they have. You don't know what solution they're looking for. You don't know how many photos they're looking for, how many videos they're looking for. You don't even know maybe what date their wedding is or whatever it's going to be. You need to ask the questions you need in order to move forward. So let's say the call is winding down. Let's use the example of I am a wedding photographer and let's say I'm on with the bride. Let's say the bride is like, okay, great, Joey, that's awesome. It's been great to get to know you. We'll let you know what we think. I would immediately say, oh my gosh, yeah, it's been so great to know you. Before we jump off this call though, I've got 4 questions I really need to get answered so I can move forward with clarity. So obviously I then can know how to serve you to the best, level. Question number 1, here's my question for you. Boom, ask question number 1, ask question number 2, ask question number 3, ask question number 4, go boom, 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 get your answers. Do not let them get off the call until you have the clarity on what you need, because more often than not, if they feel like they're in control of the conversation, it feels awkward because they're like, man, this business owner should be leading me. I should not be the one in control of this conversation, but somehow I am. You need to regain control by saying, hey, before we get off the call, I really need to get these couple questions answered. And then you just start asking them. You need to ask them. This might actually be nice for them. They might be like, oh my gosh, finally they're asking the questions. Oh my gosh, finally we're talking about what we need to be talking about. And more importantly, these questions hopefully will continue the conversation and will lead you closer and closer and closer towards the point of sale on the call. So guys, so important that you understand that doing these 3 things helps you regain control, because it is, again, the worst feeling. The worst feeling when you're on a sales call and you have lost control of the conversation and you were like, I'm just wasting my time at this point. Like, I'm not going to get anywhere close to talking about working together with this person because I am not in control. This is not going well. So to recap, how to regain control on a sales call. You do 3 things. Number 1, you start the call by giving them a plan. People submit to plans. If you don't give them the plan right off the bat, they don't know who's leading the call. Give them a plan. Tell them you are going to lead them through the plan, okay? Odds of them actually submitting to that go way up when you give them the plan. Number 1, give them the plan. Number 2, know how to break the pattern of the call. If the pattern of the call is going in a direction you do not want it to go, you need to understand how to use a pattern breaker in order to reset the conversation pattern and ask a question to redirect it in the way that you want the call to be going. Number 3, you need to know that asking for what you need before you get off a call is mandatory. Do not get off the call before you have all the information you need. It is not unkind to say, hey, real quick, I know you got to go, but can you give me an extra 2 minutes? I just have these couple questions I really need to ask, okay? That is not an unkind thing at all. That's actually a great way for you to serve your clients, because if you get off that call and you don't know how many photos they want, you can't give them a quote. If you get off that call, you don't know when their wedding is, you don't know if you're already booked, right? So you really need to make sure you're asking the questions you know you need to ask in order to move forward and regain control of the call in order to have the call go well and then hopefully end up working together. So guys, this has been a quick example of a really, really important topic, how to regain control on a sales call. Hope these 3 things have been incredibly helpful for you. If they have been, please screenshot this, share it on your story, tag me in Creative Rise, make sure you share it. Tag us so that we can actually see it. And I would love to say thank you for listening to the show, connect with you there, repost you, and share it with a friend who you also think needs to learn how to regain control of the sales call. And most importantly, guys, if you'd love to leave us a written review, we'd love that. But last but not least, we have a free sales call resource I would love to have you opt into so that you can actually watch it. It's actually from a couple mastermind rounds ago. It was a very similar example to when Victoria asked a question and we all hopped on a call. This guy's name is Kyler Miles, great dude, he's killing it. Kyler said, hey man, I don't feel very comfortable on my sales calls. Can we demo one? You play the client, I'll play me, and then we'll swap. And we did this in front of our entire mastermind community. We recorded the whole thing. I asked his permission to share it. He said, absolutely, if people will learn from it. So we made it a free, literally video you can watch. So go to creativerise.com/sales call and you can opt in there and you can watch how he controls the conversation. And then you can watch us flip it and how I control the conversation. And you can see what we both did well and what we both could have improved on. And it's going to massively help you improve your sales calls too, which is really cool. So again, link in the bio of this podcast, link in the description of this podcast, or click on the bio, link in our bio on social media, and or just go to creativerise.com/sales call. Other than that, guys, we'll catch you next week. Thanks so much for being here. From me and the rest of the team, so glad you guys are listening to the show. See you next week.